It is June 17th, 2017. This is the Watchman News, and I'm Mike Callahan. Good morning, everybody. We were up pretty late last night covering the situation in Minnesota over the verdict with the officer who shot and killed Philando Castile. And, you know, I was sitting here this morning looking through things, checking out the latest news in many different areas. And I even tweeted out something that Tim Pool had said in an unrelated topic, but speaking about the senator who was shot in Virginia. Apparently there are some individuals that feel comfortable with saying that they hope he effing dies. Speaking of the senator. Folks, that isn't right. Just because you share a different political belief than another, that does not dictate violence at all. So as I'm looking through stuff today and thinking about Philando and that situation, I ran across an article that was put out just barely over a year ago. I think it said June 7th, 2016. I've seen comments here and there to indicate that, you know, the officer was justified and this and that and the other thing. And that's not the case. That's not the case. We covered this when it happened. And to me, it's obvious the difference in between different individuals and others' thoughts as to whether or not it was justified or whether it wasn't justified. And it's crazy because in this situation, and this one particular situation, it was in no way justified. In no way. And then, as always, like the media tends to do, they tried to assassinate Philando's character any way they could. And we see this happen all the time. But see, here's the thing. And I had to say this last night in the chat during the time that we were covering it live, that, you know, the problem is people won't unite. They won't unite. And those that are preventing or not allowing unification are actually doing the bidding for the puppet masters. They're actually being a puppet for the puppet masters. I've sat back for many, many years. Back during Occupy Wall Street, I've seen this happen. I've seen it happen before that with the Tea Party. It happens every time somebody stands up. And in today's society, the facts just go out the window. They get totally ignored by the opposing team. And anything that's said in the form of character assassination is ran with and repeated and repeated and repeated. Where is the integrity? Where is the moral compass? I wouldn't be able to sleep easy knowing that I supported something very, very evil just because of an opinion that I retain that is evil in and of itself. So I ran across this article, a little over a year old, speaking about Philando. And I want to show and read the article here. Hopefully this weekend I'll have the Unicorn Riot video cut out and uploaded up by itself without monetization and stuff like that, because it is Unicorn Riot's video. But I want people to be able to go through, and view it at their leisure, and before I can get it up, you can do that at Unicorn Riot, their website. So let's go to this article, and it was put out by Time, and it's titled "Philando Castile was a role model to hundreds of kids, colleagues say." Now see, I've heard this over and over and over. But see, that's because my mind and my ears and my eyes were open to everything. Because that's the only way you're going to know where you should stand on something. You can't just go with your knee-jerk reaction or your gut feelings or whatever it may be. Go by the facts. Go by reality. Let's see what the article has to say about this gentleman that his time was cut extremely short on this earth. Colleagues and parents on Thursday remembered Philando Castile as an ambitious man who served as a role model for hundreds of children before he was fatally shot by a police officer during a traffic stop in Minnesota. A role model, folks, to kids. Castile, who was known by friends as Phil, was a cafeteria supervisor at J.J. Hill Montessori Magnet School in St. Paul, Minnesota, where he memorized the names of the 500 children he served every day, along with their food allergies, his former co-worker said. Yeah, that sounds like a horrible man, right? He remembered their names. He remembered who couldn't have milk. He knew what they could have to eat and what they couldn't, Joan Edmond, a recently retired paraprofessional at the school, told Time. This was a real guy. He made a real contribution. Yes, Black Lives Matter. But this man mattered. Now, before I continue on with this, last night, towards the end of the broadcast from Unicorn Riot, there were two different individuals that he had spoke with. One of them was a young lady that was, I don't think she was that young. I think her age was mentioned, but she was sitting on the roadway, and the very first thing that she could get out of her mouth is that how all lives matter. All lives. In fact, she even cracked a joke that even unicorn lives matter, being that she was being interviewed by Unicorn Riot. And this woman was an excellent spokesperson for humanity. And then right before they shut down for the evening, he spoke with another person out there, a gentleman that was upset. Highly upset. But even though he was highly upset, he maintained his composure. And he spoke truth. It's crazy how people will just jump and pick a side with this stuff. And sadly, yeah, a lot of it's rooted in racism. Now, I'm not sitting there calling every white person racist. I'm not sitting there saying that every black person can say anything and they're not racist, because that's crazy talk. But there's much more to these people, folks. There's much more to you and I. than what the media would say. Right? So let's not jump and go with media because they assassinate somebody's character, because that somebody could be you or I. You know, the Bible's got some good lessons in it. One of the most important being, do unto others as you would want done unto you. So if you would want somebody to stand up for you on your behalf when you're getting wronged, then maybe you need to stand up for somebody else. A police officer shot Castile, 32, late Wednesday during a traffic stop in the St. Paul suburb of Falcon Heights, authorities said. Castile's girlfriend, Diamond Reynolds, captured the aftermath of the incident on video and streamed it on Facebook Live, where it went viral. And I'm not going to replay that. There's no need for it. I'll put the link to this article in the description of the video. If you want to see that, you know, go right ahead. I'm not going to put anybody, including myself, through that again. Same deal with Lavoie. I just, you know, it's something that needs to be seen, but you know, if you want to see it again, the link will be down in the description. Do so at your leisure. Reynolds told reporters Thursday that her boyfriend was complying with the officer's instructions to put his hands in the air and get his license and registration. She added that he told police that he had a gun in the car and a permit to carry it. Castile did nothing but what the police officer asked of us. She said nothing within his body language said, "Shoot me." The shooting death shocked Edmund, 62, who said Castile was a dutiful worker who adhered to rules strictly. "I never seen anybody take that kind of role so seriously," she said. "He followed directions carefully." Castile graduated from Central High School in 2001 and had worked for St. Paul Public Schools since he was 19 years old, beginning in 2002 in the Nutrition Services Department, the school district said in a statement. He was promoted to a supervisory position 2 years ago and was currently working at one of the schools during summer break. "I am deeply sorry for his family and for their loss. He's worked in SPPS for many years, and he graduated from our district, so he was one of our own," SPPS Superintendent Valeria Silver said in a statement. Parents, several of whom rallied for justice outside the tight-knit school Thursday, said they felt safe knowing Castile was in charge of their children's food, and said Castile transformed the cafeteria into a positive and cheerful space. "He was a fixture. I was always happy to see him around school. The cafeteria was a pretty happy place. He was part of the community and an important one," Andrew Carr, whose 8-year-old son attends J.J. Hill, told Time. "He was just a nice, caring person who worked at the school, who should not be dead," said Carr, 37. In the school district statement, an unnamed co-worker says Castile was smart and overqualified for his position, yet still took his job seriously. "Kids loved him. He was quiet, respectful, and kind. I knew him as warm and funny," the colleague said. He wore a shirt and tie to his supervisor interview and said his goal was to one day sit on the other side of this table. Edmund said Castile may have worked inside a kitchen, but he often taught children important lessons in the consequences of stealing and being respectful. He was much a teacher than any teacher in that building, Edmund said. We had a calmer cafeteria this year, and I think it was because he was there. Castile was someone who has that presence that people respect, and they become more respectful too, Edmund said. I think he did that for the kids, she said. Kids watch everything, and they saw that. He had so much going for him. He didn't have an axe to grind. It just doesn't make sense. This is a real person. 500 real children are directly impacted. And I'm sure they are. What's going through these children's heads, folks? What are we doing? You'll find that if you don't take a side because somebody's color or their race or their religion or political belief, you will see things much, much more clearly. And you'll also find some incredibly awesome people out there that just might have a difference in views. That's okay. But we can't allow stuff like this to go on. Whether it's Philando, whether it's Lavoie, whether it's Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, the list goes on and on and on and on. But they get away with it. Why? Because of mob mentality. Because of knee-jerk reactions. And because of evil that's rooted in one's soul. If we want to stop this, we have to do it together.